Hi everyone, it's Lily here. I thought I would go through Heal Chrono for you all. The amazing Heal Chrono. I've been waiting for it for a very, very long time. Since I used to do Boon Heal in dungeons in core game years and years and years ago. So I've been playing Heal Chrono for I don't know, well, since it came out in the patch, to be honest. And I thought I'd share with you my Heal Chrono. There are various versions out there, depending on what you want to do and what you feel comfortable with. So mine uses wells and phantasms for healing. I do not like recharging my mantras. So we're just going to ignore that we have mantras because recharging mantras is rubbish, and because the mantra trait only actually really works on the first charge of the mantra. So you basically use the first one, then you spam the others, and then you recharge it again for the healing, which is not fun gameplay. So, I personally have a heal chrono that does all of these boons here. So you see, you have my Fury, Protection, Vigor, Stability, Aegis, Swiftness, Regen, Quickness, or Alacrity to other people. And you can have resistance too. I mean, you have a tiny bit in your build, but not very much, so you can bring more. So that's all the things that you can do. You can do tanking, you can do healing. I will give you the gear variants for both tank and non-tank. And we have some choices of relics and weapon sets. So it's very customizable to what you want to do. We will start off with our gear then. So, gear wise, your aim is to have 100% boon duration and as much healing power as possible. It doesn't look like I have 100% boon duration, but that's because this variant is capped for use with ascended food and regeneration. You will do full regeneration yourself, so you can rely on that. So, 79% is kind of where I'm at. It is slightly overcapped. We're not going to worry about 10 concentration. So, 79% is what I've aimed for. With food, you get 70 from food, and then you get the rest from regen. If you don't have ascended food and you want to use this variant, there is this food, poultry satay, which will give you the same as ascended food, just in non-ascended form, so you don't get the extra healing buff with it. But if you don't have legendary deer and you don't want to change it from this, then have poultry satay in your inventory. So we're just going to flick through these real quick. We're basically mostly Harrier right now because I'm not in tanking gear. So any of these pieces that are Harrier, if you want to be tanking, you change them to Giver. Okay, so Harrier helmet, Magi, shoulders. If they're Magi, you're going to be changing them to Cleric if you are tanking. So it's Harrier Magi or Giver Cleric. Harrier chest, Harrier gloves, Harrier leggings, Magi boots. Then for our trinkets, we've got a Harrier back piece, two Magi accessories, and one Magi and one Harrier ring. Okay, just completely ignore the fact that I've got infusions on this. I've been taking it into fractals. And then a Harrier amulet, which I totally stole from my druid. So at some point I need to get her another one because I'm still nowhere near doing my legendary amulet. Your weapons are all Harrier just to make it nice and simple. So that you can swap them in and out, and it's very easy to work out what you're putting in there. We like to keep our weapons nice and straightforward. For your runes, you want water. For your sigils, you want concentration and either transference, or if you need lots and lots of CC, because you're a mesmer, you can do lots and lots of CC, you can bring paralyzation. Because you're in Magi, if you're not tanking, you can also bring renewal. Completely up to you which you decide to take. For relics, you have a little bit of choice. So I'm currently running Febe, solely because although I'm running Focus Shield, people don't seem to like running over the Focus line, which will actually do full uptime itself. You'll see here you've got 21.5 seconds on just crossing it once, and it's on a 20-second cooldown. You have improved Alacrity, it's a lot shorter cooldown. But people don't realize it's there in the middle of fights and walk over it. So if you've got a class like a Berserker who needs full uptime of swiftness, or if you're in certain fights and having swiftness is a real plus, then Febe is really useful. Your other choices would be Midnight Kin. If you're really struggling with Might and Fury, it's more for the Fury than the Might, but if you're really struggling with those, then feel free to bring the Relic of the Midnight Kin. If you only have the core relics from the core relic boxes, you could bring Dwayner or Monk, but you don't get a huge amount from your relic regardless of which one you bring, so it's definitely situational depending on which what your comp is and which situation you're in. You'll see I'm running Focus Shield. I like Focus for its extra phantasm, and because there is a trait in Inspiration that we'll look at in a second, which makes it nice. You also have your pull on your Focus 4, which is useful. We bring a Scepter because it has the best clone generation, and you're going to be healing on clone generation. You'll also need clones to be able to shatter, obviously, and a lot of your boons come from shattering. Your shield does swiftness and might. It also does defiance bars, and it does protection, but honestly, unless you are tanking, you are probably not pressing shield 4. So just ignore that protection uptime. Unless you are really struggling with protection uptime, you probably don't need it. 100% boon duration without ascended food. Oops, no, I don't not want to sit down. If you're running delicious rice balls instead, then you want to change your cleric or magi boots and shoulders to Harrier or Giver. If you want to take a staff, we'll cover staff later on. If you want to take a staff, you basically just take it with these sigils and Harrier. If you've got legendary, you can put Giver on your weapons if you really need more toughness, but meh. I'm not really going to do that. Right, okay, so we have traits. Now, you can see I was an Alacrity Chrono more recently than a Quickness one, but Alacrity and Quickness are entirely interchangeable on Chrono nowadays, so you can do either of those. Most of these traits, the Chaos ones are kind of static, so you want your protection, you want your Chaos aura and regen to people, and you want Bountiful Disillusionment to be able to give all of those boons. The stab on Self Shatter is a self boon, not for everyone else. The only stab from this trait is to other people is your Distortion stability. Then we have our Inspiration trait line as our healing trait line. So basically Chaos is boons and Inspiration is healing. We are generally going to take 3 in the first line. You can take 1 if you know everyone's going to go down a lot, but honestly I prefer taking conditions off of people because conditions tend to be more deadly than having to res slightly longer. Also, if you're going somewhere like Ken and you forget you have Medic's feedback on, you're just going to annoy everybody. If someone goes down and you put a feedback and then everyone gets reflected into. You aren't going to take restorative mantras because you're not recasting your mantras. We've gone through that. We don't enjoy that. It's horrible gameplay. The middle line, we're going to come back to. Yeah, we're going to come back to the middle line. Right, so the end line, your Grandmaster trait, you're mostly going to take the middle one. Restorative Illusions. It's going to heal and cleanse everybody when you shatter. It's quite a lot of healing, and it's one condition a shatter, regardless of how many clones you have. Mental defense can be taken if you really need the stun break, but honestly, I don't feel like you will. It turns Shatter 4 into doing resistance. It's 7.5 seconds, I believe, at full boon duration, which is this one. It will make Distortion do basically so many boons, um, but honestly, I'd rather take the healing. And Blurred Inscription, the only kind of place that I tend to take that is River for Wing 5, where I'm doing the Aegis for Desmina, because it's just easier than um, your other forms of Aegis. Everywhere else, you don't really need that much Aegis. You can do it with your other skills anyway. And then this middle line. So currently I have the focus trait on, so that my focus cooldowns are reduced. It also means that your focus skills reflect projectiles. If you are somewhere where you do not want to be reflecting projectiles like Can, do take it off. If you're somewhere in fractals where someone will be trying to reflect, like, I don't know, Art So Eve, there's often a DPS who wants to reflect there. Make sure you don't have Warden's feedback on so that you don't interrupt with their reflect, as yours might overwrite theirs. I'm not sure how the priority order works. And then if you do take that one off, generally I take Edo Restoration. You don't really need the extra clones, so it's kind of here nor there whether or not you take it, but it's basically if you don't have a focus or you don't want the focus trait for that reason, reflecting or anything, then take Edo Restoration. If you need more resistance, you can take Temporal Enchanter. We'll cover resistance in a little bit. Okay. Then we're going to take Oswell the Entwell, obviously, as we have lots and lots of wells to be able to heal people. I'm going to take Improved Alacrity because neither of the others really worked that great. And having extra Alacrity cooldowns means that your cooldowns are shorter, which is very nice on a healer. And Stretch Time, or Seize the Moment. You don't take either of these depending on if you're going to be doing Alacrity or Quickness. Okay, so there are use cases for our traits. For our skills, we have all the choices in the world. I will tend to take Heal Well because it has a very nice heal. It's also 900 range and you can just place it on top of people. If you are not playing a Heal Chrono but you are playing something else, please do watch for your Heal Chrono's wells. If you are thinking, oh, I'm a little bit low on health, and you're stood trying to do a mechanic or something, if they've put a heal well on top of you, or any well on top of you is there to heal you, please do not think, oh, I'll just wander out of it. If you're a little bit low on health, they've probably put one on top of your face. Please stay there. You'll make them very sad if you run out of it and then you die. We're going to take Well of Action for Might and Fury. It's also very nice for the super speed if you can time it really well, so that you can super speed people off the platforms at like Twin Lagos and stuff. It's always good fun. This middle one here is my random slot. It's the one where you can put anything in it. Precognition is a nice one because it gives Aegis and stability. Stability is 2 seconds with full boon duration. It's not very long, but you know, if you can time it nicely, then it's nice. The Aegis is pulsing, so that's good. We're going to definitely take Disenchanter. Boonstrip is really nice in a lot of places, including fractals, or certain raids and strikes. It's also really nice to have as an extra way of doing quickness or alacrity if you've run out of shatters or whatever. You don't really need it for that, but I just like having it on my bar, honestly. Then we have this really random slot, right? So you can either take another well. If you need more Boonstrip, you can take Senility. There's not many places in the game where you need that. Null Field for condition removal. You can also take any of your mantras, distraction, resolve, or concentration generally. You can take things like portal. For the mesmer experience, where you get to portal people around, you can take feedback for things like Matthias, where we're going to want to reflect stuff. Yes, you can use your focus, but you know, feedback is always slightly more, slightly safer. You can take mimic if you really want to. I've not actually really found a use case for mimic right now, but you know, some people like that still. You can take blink if you need to be running around all over the place. You can take your signets. Signet of Illusions would probably be my choice of the 4 signets, because you can use it to reset your shatters if you run out, which is nice. But it does have a long cooldown, so you know, use at your own leisure. Really, you don't really need any of these other ones. I know some people like mirror images to make their first CS a lot quicker. Okay, so that is basically all of your kind of choices for stills and stuff. We're gonna run through the whole healing thing. So we heal on conjuring a phantasm or a clone. For these stills, you have a clone in the end chain of your auto attack. That's where a lot of your clones are going to come from. You have Phantasmal Warden, which will heal when it is a phantasm. It will heal again when it becomes a clone. Disenchanter works exactly the same. It will heal when you create it and heal again when it becomes a clone. Your counter spell will create a clone on the illusionary counter. If you are blocking, you will create 2 clones. If you don't block and you just press it twice, you'll create 1 clone. Each will heal independently. On your shield, your phantasm still is your 4 still, but as I said earlier, we're probably not gonna press that unless we're tanking. So that's the other reason that I take Disenchanter, just so I've got that extra one, so I don't miss the whole phantasm on a weapon still. You really will overcap without it, but it's yeah, I like having built-in self safety. So we do 360 healing when we create clones or phantasms, or when phantasms turn into clones. We do 360 healing on our shattering. It's an additional heal per clone that we shatter. We do healing when our wells end to anybody who's inside the well. But wells last 3 seconds in general. So that is after 3 seconds after you place it, so you better be good at timing. Or just quite lucky and hope no one dies in that 3 seconds. The end pulse of your heal well will also do more healing. You'll see it says ending heal 5,406 on my current build without any food or anything. And then you've got regeneration, obviously. You've got Condi cleanse, which is when you shatter from Well of Eternity, combos in any of your light fields. You've got 2 on this particular build, your Temple Crown and your Heal Well. You have 3 different types of combo fields, your light, your ethereal, and your dark from your gravity well. You'll also Condi cleanse when you first summon phantasms, because you have sympathetic visage. I said we were going to mention staff. For those of you who run with people who run chaos mesmers, so chaos virtuosos or mirages, they really like having chaos aura nowadays. So you will do chaos aura for them. Your F2 does chaos aura for your subgroup. So 5 people, up to 5 people, 4 seconds of chaos aura. You're also going to be providing ethereal fields for them to blast in or leap through if they use blast finishes, or they will do chaos aura in an area. If they use leap finishes, they will do Chaos Aura for themselves. You also do Chaos Aura to other people when you grant it to yourself, which is where the staff comes in. With a staff, you have, where is it? This still here. Chaos Armor, which obviously does Chaos Aura to yourself, and therefore to everybody else too. You also have a Chaos Storm and a Phase Retreat Elite finisher. Because you're giving it to yourself, you will give it to everybody else too. So if you want to try and keep it up as much as possible, you basically want to take a staff because you'll get extra lots of Chaos Aura from that. So there will be F2, leap in your Chaos Storm or any of your wells and press your Chaos Armor button. So you can basically keep it up most of the time on your own. They'll obviously still be doing their own with their F2, but that's just for them. We're going to go through how you do your boons now. So for might, we have Well of Action, we have Shield. If you have Midnight King, then you'll do it from any type of interrupt that you do. Also, your F1 does might. Okay. Then for Fury, your F3 gives 20 seconds, and your Well of Action will give 12 seconds. I know the numbers here aren't quite the same, but yeah, let me cast mirror for you. So I've put regen on myself. So this here says 11 3/4 because I'm not quite concentration tapped because I don't have my food on. That's fine. Then we're going to do protection when we shatter. So any of your shatters will do protection. It is 2 seconds base plus 2 seconds per clone shattered. So up to 8 seconds a shatter. Then we have stability. Now, I know a lot of you are stability fans because of like fractals and all that kind of thing. So you're gonna do 3 stats of stability. Ignore that tooltip. I know it says 5. I promise you it is not 5. You're gonna do 3 stats of stability on distortion. You do 1 extra to you do 1 stack to yourself only every single shatter that you use. You're probably gonna mostly have stability all the time. Your stability is 360 radius, because all of the boons from Bountiful Disillusionment are 360. So that stability is 360. Then you have your Well of Precognition, which is at 900 range and has a radius of 240. That's the bit from the middle, so it has a width of 480. And we'll do a little bit of stability, so 2 seconds on its first pulse. The rest of the pulses don't give stability. You can change this if you need more to Mantra of Concentration, which will give 3 stacks of stability for 6 seconds per charge. The first charge gives 4 seconds for, I think it's 10 seconds, judging by those numbers there. If you're doing something like Kadim 1 for stability, I would suggest taking Precognition. Sorry, for Aegis even. We're coming on to Aegis now. Precognition for Aegis, because it's 900 range, you can put it on the group if you're tanking and block yourself with the shield or your scepter too. And then your distortion also does stability. It does stability, but it also does Aegis. You have this minor trait in Inspiration that gives Aegis for a little bit. And that says 3.5 seconds, but I think it's 4 when you have regen and stuff. Yeah, 4, there you go. So you're going to do 4 seconds of stability. Now that is only 300 radius. So it's not quite the 360 we're kind of used to. So be aware of that when you are trying to give with Inspiring Distortion. You might need to move yourself for a short amount of time to get it to them. Also, your Mantra of Concentration does it on the first charge. Yeah, that's also 10 seconds. But obviously we're trying to avoid recasting our mantras because they take so long to cast. So You can use that if needed, but you'd probably prefer not to. Then we have swiftness. So your shield will do swiftness. It's 360 around you. It doesn't matter if you hit the people with your shield or not. That will do. You know what? I'm just give myself regen for a bit. That will do 10 seconds of swiftness. If people walk over your line, you're gonna have 23.5 seconds of swiftness for them on a less than 20-second cooldown. And our Febe relic gives it every time you use your heal skill. So that's got a 10-second cooldown, and you give 18.5 seconds, I think, maybe 19 on that. Obviously, if you're taking the heal well, your heal well is a 20-second cooldown. So you can nearly do the full amount with Febe itself. But obviously, you're gonna have your shield, so you're gonna be fine. If we run Quickness here, our shatters will do Quickness. We have flow of time. This means that we also do self Alacrity when we are Quickness. Then we have regen, which is always very nice. You will do regen on your heal still, as I'm sure you've noticed me pressing my heal still to get my concentration up. So I can show you the boon durations. And you're also gonna give it on F2 because of the Chaos Aura. If you feel like you need way more regen, then do Tater Staff. I just don't like the force movement of stuff with Staff 2. For resistance, for those of you who do fractals, if you take Temporal Enchanter, you are going to do some on your Continuum Split, but obviously Continuum Split is 105-second cooldown base. With improved Alacrity, it's shorter, but it's still not great. And then I would suggest you take things that are glamours, obviously, because they're going to do them. If you don't need the CC, then take Time Warp, because it's generally you want to try and give it at the start of phases. Time Warp has a horrible cooldown. It really needs sorting out, but you know, you'll give 6 seconds of resistance on it. And then you'll give 6 seconds on Nelfield. We choose Nelfield because it has the shortest cooldown. And it will also condition cleanse whilst it's giving resistance. So it gives 6 seconds of resistance, it lasts 6 seconds. Hopefully by the time people have completed that 6 seconds, they will not have conditions on them anymore. Because it will take 6 conditions off. Okay. The other glamours are feedback, which is useful but also not great in certain fights. And then portal and veil. Obviously, you don't really want to be taking those because they're 72-second cooldowns and not really very useful. So I think it's probably time for a little bit of a demonstration. I do have a golem here. I'm gonna do Alacrity. I'm gonna show you Alacrity, which means I'm gonna put Quickness on myself, and that's the only boon I'm gonna put on. Okay, so that you can see what I'm doing. Now I'm gonna take precognition. We're probably not gonna touch this still, but we're gonna take precognition. So I generally start in focus. It's more important if you are Quickness than Alacrity, because you can start with Phantasmal Warden, give Quickness to everybody. It will be 6 seconds, and then you then you have that. You have Quickness in order to do the rest of your stuff. Okay, so we're gonna start the fight with our Warden, and then we're gonna get some clones for our Continuum Split. No. Then we're going to Continuum Split. Use as many of your shatters as you can and try and keep your clones up nicely. Okay. Now I tend to press 2 off cooldown. And then depending on how many people we have in our squad, we can do stuff with that. Okay. It's not a very riveting rotation, honestly. As you know, the fight's better. You can do that. Make sure to try and always touch your shield, so that you can ensure. I'm not actually concentration tapped right now because I do not have my food on. So give me a second. I will put my food on. There it is. Now we're gonna wait till we've gotten our clones up again. And then we're just gonna keep going. Try not to overwrite your clones, because that way you get all of them. If you overwrite your clone from your scepter, you do extra torment, which I guess is nice, but yeah, it's not really required. As you can tell, I am actually generating more clones than I need. I for shattering, at least. I have too many. Now, I don't know if you're keeping an eye on my buff bar, but most of them are staying up. And then we get back here and we go, oh. No. The reason we try and do all our shatters is because then we're kind of, you know, giving ourselves as much of the stuff as possible. If your boon provider does a fair bit of boons, you can not worry quite so much. And you'll see we're keeping our boons up nicely. Oh, there's a mechanic. Quick, press our shatter button that does stab. Now, you feel free to swap your weapons as of when you realize that you're camping one weapon. It just, yeah, you want to try and keep all your boons up nicely. I also try and line as much as possible up with continuum split so that we can do this. Press all of our buttons in continuum split, and then we give extra stuff. With certain things for phasing, it is important that you keep an eye on the phase times, because you can't give Alacrity easily if you don't have a target. Okay, if you don't have a target, you're gonna struggle because you can't create your phantasms, which means you only have a shatter, which is what's the thing, 2 seconds long, and you're gonna run out of shatters. So yeah, so that is our boons. Now I have the boon table. Obviously I did no quickness to myself, but if we put the rest of the boons on, we do regen, vigor. We don't do any resolution. That's like the only boon that we can't do any of. But these are the main boons. So here we go. Might, Fury, protect, regen, protection, alacrity, vigor, and swiftness. So it does have a small ramp up with those, but yes, as you can see, we do all of those, and that's very nice. Anyone has any questions, do feel free to put a comment or anything down the bottom. I will also be uploading some videos for actual Heal Chrono gameplay. I'm not going to attach them onto the end because this is a long enough video as it is, and I'm sure half of you have gone to sleep already. But yeah, the food again is poultry satay. There you go, and you can use bountiful maintenance oil or the mist infused maintenance oil, depending on which one is cheaper. Always go for the cheapest of the two, unless you make them, I guess. I don't actually know if you can. But hopefully that will answer some of your questions about Heal Chrono. If you want to have some videos showing kind of per boss, let me know. I'll do some showing what I prefer to take for each boss. But your gear and traits will generally stay the same. Yeah, so tantium wise, you end up at 1861, I think, for toughness. Obviously, if you take giver weapons, then it's more. But go out there and have fun with it. It's a really fun build. I've been waiting for Heal Chrono for a very long time. Heal Vert does also work. It has less might and fury uptime, so you tend to take Midnight King as your relic, but it does as much as Chrono does, just with a little bit more need for help with might and fury. And actually does more healing than Chrono, as long as you're close. Does not have the ranged healing capacity because it does not have the wells. But yeah, both of them are really fun. I will let you know if I manage to get Heal Mirage to work. I'm struggling with the whole Alacrity uptime thing. But you know, I will keep trying, and we will share our love of Mesmer together. So, see you all, guys. See everybody later. Yeah, see everyone later, and enjoy your Heal Chronos.